The hum of the Coruscant cityscape was a constant thrum against Anakin Skywalker's increasingly frayed nerves. The past year had seen his life expand in ways the Jedi Code explicitly forbade, and yet he clung to it with a desperate grip. Beyond Padme Amidala, his secret wife, two other women had woven themselves into the fabric of his existence. Lyra, a gentle Twi'lek artist whose serene presence soothed his inner turmoil, and Ilara, a sharp, politically astute former aide who understood the machinations of the Senate almost as well as Padme herself. They were his secret, his solace, and now his growing burden. In the quiet luxury of his sprawling apartment, away from the prying eyes of the Jedi Temple, the illusion of domestic bliss was meticulously maintained. Padme, ever gracious, navigated the complex emotional landscape with a stoicism that both awed and troubled Anakin. Lyra found quiet moments to sketch his profile, her touch a light brush against his arm, while Ilara offered insights into senatorial politics that often proved invaluable. Yet, beneath the veneer, a nascent tension pulsed. Unspoken jealousies, fleeting glances of longing, and the immense pressure of secrecy created a stifling atmosphere. Anakin's nightmares, once solely fixated on Padme's demise, now fragmented, showing Lyra's vibrant Leku fading to gray, Ilara's sharp eyes dimming with fear. The visions, amplified by his attachments, clawed at his sleep, leaving him exhausted and irritable. He began to demand constant updates on their whereabouts, his holocalls often ringing with an edge of paranoia. A casual conversation one of the women might have with a fellow senator or a friend from the arts community would be met with an almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw, a subtle clenching of his fist. The whispers of the dark side, once distant echoes, were now a chorus, promising him the power to bind them all to him, to protect them from every conceivable threat. The Jedi Council, particularly Master Windu, had long sensed a burgeoning imbalance in Anakin. His brazen defiance of the code was no longer just about Padme. It was an undeniable pattern of excessive attachment. Obi-Wan Kenobi, heartbroken and conflicted, saw the shadows deepen around his former apprentice. Anakin, Obi-Wan pleaded one evening after a grueling mission. Your attachments, they are consuming you. The Force is out of balance within you. Anakin's response was a chillingly cold stare. The code forbids attachment, Master, but it offers no solution for loss. I will not lose them. Any of them. Chancellor Palpatine, ever the puppet master, observed this intricate dance of affection and fear with keen interest. He subtly fanned the flames of Anakin's paranoia. My dear Skywalker, Palpatine would purr during their private meetings. The Jedi cling to their archaic dogmas. They would see your strength, your capacity for love, as a weakness. Imagine if they sought to correct your unique arrangements. They might see them as a distraction, a danger to the Order. True power, my boy, is the ability to protect what is truly yours. These words resonated deeply, twisting the Council's genuine concern into a malicious threat in Anakin's mind. On a mission to Cato Neimoidia, a separatist ambush nearly claimed Lyra, who had insisted on accompanying Anakin to sketch the unique architecture. When a battle droid's blast sent her reeling, a surge of pure, unfiltered rage erupted from Anakin. He didn't just disarm the droids, he crushed them, tearing through their metallic frames with a ferocity that stunned even his clone troopers. His eyes flashed yellow for a moment before he recovered, holding Lyra tightly. You see, he whispered later, the words laced with desperation. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Only with absolute power can I keep you safe. Padme, witnessing his spiraling possessiveness, tried to confront him. Anakin, what is happening to you? We love you, all of us. But this fear, it's changing you. You're losing yourself. Her words, meant to be a plea, landed like accusations in his darkened mind. He saw it as doubt, as a crack in their unity. You don't understand, Padme, he snarled, his voice distorted by pain and anger. I am doing this for you. For all of you. The Jedi Council, finally recognizing the extent of his corruption, made their move. They intended to confront him, perhaps even to remove him from the Order. This was the final push Palpatine needed. He revealed his true identity, promising Anakin the power to prevent death, to protect his family from the Jedi's tyranny and the galaxy's inherent dangers. The choice was agonizing, yet inevitable. The fear of losing Padme, Lyra, and Alara, of seeing his carefully constructed world crumble, overwhelmed all reason. He saw the Jedi as the ultimate threat, standing between him and the power he needed to secure his loved ones' lives. The path to darkness was now a swift, irreversible plunge. The night of Order 66, the Jedi Temple burned, a sacrifice to Anakin's distorted love. Lyra and Alara, terrified witnesses, were forced to watch as their protector became their master. They were not wives nor partners, but extensions of his will, living in a gilded cage, bound by his possessive power. Padme, sensing his complete turn, confronted him on Mustafar. Her heart broke not just for herself, but for the twisted parody of love he had become. He attacked her, believing she had betrayed him, his rage consuming the last vestiges of his former self. As Darth Vader rose from the ashes of Anakin Skywalker, his obsession with immortality extended beyond Padme. He sought to conquer death itself, not just for the memory of his fallen love, but for the two women who now lived under his shadow, constant reminders of the attachments that had driven him to ruin. Their survival, a testament to his dark power, became a perverse trophy, forever binding them to the monster he had become. The galaxy trembled, ruled by a Sith Lord whose power was forged in the fire of absolute, suffocating love. The weight of his secrets pressed down on Anakin Skywalker, heavier than any starship. Within the sprawling, secluded apartment on Coruscant, far from the sterile corridors of the Jedi Temple, he had forged a life that utterly defied his order's most fundamental tenets. It wasn't just Padme Amidala, his clandestine wife, who shared his clandestine existence. Two other remarkable women had woven themselves into the very fabric of his being, creating a complex tapestry of affection, solace, and an ever-present gnawing anxiety. There was Padme, of course, his anchor, his true north. Her understanding eyes saw through the bravado, recognizing the boy beneath the hero. She navigated this unconventional arrangement with a quiet grace, her love a steadying force amidst the chaos of his dual life. Yet even her boundless capacity for acceptance couldn't fully dissipate the subtle, unspoken shadows that sometimes flitted across her face. Then came Lyra, the Twi'lek artist, whose gentle spirit offered a different kind of peace. Her Leku often brushed his arm as she sketched, her serene presence a balm to his often turbulent mind. She saw the beauty in him, the light he often felt fading. Her quiet devotion was a soft melody in his discordant life. And Ilara, the sharp, politically astute former aide. She possessed a keen intellect that rivaled Padme's own, effortlessly dissecting the convoluted machinations of the Galactic Senate. Her conversations with Anakin were filled with strategic insights and a dry wit that stimulated his mind, offering a welcome respite from the weight of his duties. She was an intellectual confidant, understanding the political chessboard in a way few others could. Together, they formed Anakin's forbidden world. Each woman offered a unique facet of love and companionship, fulfilling different needs within his expansive yet deeply conflicted heart. But this intricate, beautiful mosaic was built on a foundation of precarious secrecy. Every stolen moment, every shared glance, was fraught with the danger of exposure. The pressure of maintaining this elaborate deception was immense, fostering an undercurrent of unspoken jealousy, fleeting glances of longing, and the suffocating burden of a lie that threatened to unravel with every passing day. The very attachments that provided him solace also became shackles, tightening with each beat of his anxious heart. The tendrils of fear, once subtle whispers in the deepest corners of Anakin Skywalker's mind, now clawed at him nightly. Sleep, once a refuge, had become a battleground where his worst anxieties played out in horrifying detail. The nightmares, initially a chilling premonition of Padme Amidala's demise, had metastasized, twisting into broader, more terrifying visions. Now, it wasn't just Padme he saw fading. He would wake in a cold sweat, the image of Lyra's vibrant, sky-blue Leku wilting to a desolate gray burned behind his eyelids. He'd witness Ilara's sharp, intelligent eyes, once so full of life and quick understanding, dimming with an indescribable terror, sometimes even shattered. These fragmented visions, fueled by his ever-deepening attachments, tore at his sanity. They left him utterly drained, his body heavy, with an exhaustion that no amount of rest could alleviate, his temper perpetually on a knife's edge. The paranoia, a venomous seed planted by the nightmares, began to sprout in his waking hours. He started demanding constant updates on their whereabouts, his holocalls ringing with an edge of desperation, an almost imperceptible tremor in his voice. A simple, casual conversation one of the women might have with a fellow senator or a friend from the Coruscant arts community would be met with an almost imperceptible tightening of his jaw, a subtle clenching of his metallic fist. He'd replay their words, their laughter, searching for hidden meanings, for any hint of perceived threat or disloyalty. "Are you sure you were just at the gallery, Lyra?" he might ask, his voice strained, even though she had just returned. Or, "Who was that senator you were speaking with, Alara? What did they want?" His questions, meant to be assurances, became interrogations. The whispers of the dark side, once distant echoes heard only in the depths of his fear, were now a pervasive chorus. They promised him the ultimate power, a power he could use to bind them all to him, to shield them from every conceivable harm. He craved it, not for conquest, but for the desperate illusion of protection. This crushing fear of losing any or all of them was pushing him further, relentlessly, toward the very darkness he swore to resist. The Jedi Council chamber, usually a place of serene contemplation, now frequently resonated with a tense silence whenever the topic of Anakin Skywalker arose. Masters Mace, Windu, and Yoda, in particular, bore the heaviest burden of concern. They had long sensed a burgeoning imbalance within the Chosen One, a turbulent current beneath his undeniable power. It wasn't merely the whispers of his increasingly brazen defiance of the Jedi Code, which had once seemed confined to the singular, unconfirmed rumor of his marriage to Padme Amidala. Now, it was an undeniable, alarming pattern of excessive attachment, a recklessness that bordered on dangerous obsession. Mace Windu, ever the pragmatist, watched Anakin with a hardened gaze. "His focus is too narrow," Windu observed one day, his voice grave. "His actions are increasingly dictated by personal fear, not the will of the Force. He dismisses warnings, dismisses the code, as if it were a minor inconvenience." The Council had seen Anakin push boundaries before, but this was different. This was a direct, consistent challenge to the very foundation of their order. His temper flared more easily, his patience wore thinner, and a possessiveness they found deeply troubling began to manifest in his interactions, even with fellow Jedi. Grandmaster Yoda, his ears drooping slightly, chimed in with his ancient wisdom. "Clouded, his judgment has become attachments, like chains they are, binding him to fear of loss." See this. We do, in every mission, every decision. A path to the dark side, this is. They had always tried to guide him, to temper his impulsiveness, but now his path seemed increasingly shadowed. Reports from clone commanders hinted at a ferocity in battle that was less Jedi-like restraint and more raw, untamed fury. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi, while fiercely loyal, often returned from missions with a look of profound worry in his eyes, speaking vaguely of Anakin's growing intensity and singular focus. The Council knew with a growing dread that Anakin's unique arrangements were a symptom of a deeper, more perilous affliction of the spirit. They watched, debated, and grew increasingly alarmed, uncertain how to pull their most powerful, yet most volatile Jedi back from the precipice. Chancellor Palpatine, with his perpetual, knowing smile, observed the intricate dance of affection and fear consuming Anakin Skywalker with the keen interest of a master strategist. He had, for months, been carefully tending the garden of Anakin's inner turmoil, weeding out any loyalty to the Jedi and sowing seeds of suspicion. He saw the deepening shadows around Anakin's eyes, the way his gaze lingered when speaking of Padme Amidala, or the new, almost possessive, glint when he inadvertently mentioned Lyra's artistic endeavors or Illyra's political insights. During their frequent, private meetings in his opulent office, far removed from the Jedi Temple's austere presence, Palpatine's words were like poison, subtly delivered, designed to corrode Anakin's trust in the Order. He never directly condemned the Jedi outright at first. Instead, He would begin by commiserating, validating Anakin's frustrations. "My dear Skywalker," Palpatine would purr, leaning forward conspiratorially, his voice a low, comforting rumble. "The Jedi cling to their archaic dogmas, do they not? So rigid, so unfeeling. They would never understand a heart as vast as yours, a capacity for love so profound." Then came the insidious twist, a gentle nudge toward the abyss. "Imagine," the Chancellor would continue, his eyes narrowing just slightly, "if they were to discover your unique arrangements. They might see your strength, your capacity for attachment, not as a virtue, but as a weakness. They might even seek to correct it, to remove what they perceive as a distraction, a danger to their antiquated order." These words resonated deeply within Anakin, twisting the Council's genuine concern into a malicious threat in his tormented mind. Palpatine's voice would drop, imbued with a false empathy. "They would stand between you and those you cherish, Anakin. True power, my boy," he'd whisper, his gaze piercing, "is the ability to protect what is truly yours, to ensure no one, no dogma, no threat can ever take them from you." Each conversation was another turn of the screw, tightening the vice of paranoia around Anakin's already fractured soul, pushing him ever closer to the desperate conviction that only the dark side offered salvation. On a mission to the verdant mushroom forest world of Cato Nemoidia, a separatist ambush erupted from the dense foliage with terrifying suddenness. Anakin Skywalker had allowed Lyra to accompany him, swayed by her innocent fascination with the planet's unique, towering architecture, believing it a safe, if unconventional, excursion. The decision would haunt him. When a battle droid's crimson blast, seemingly out of nowhere, struck a nearby pillar, sending a shower of debris raining down, Lyra cried out, stumbling backward. For a horrifying moment, she was exposed, vulnerable. A surge of pure, unfiltered rage, cold and absolute, erupted from Anakin's core. It wasn't the disciplined, focused anger of a Jedi in battle. It was a primal, consuming fury. He moved with a speed that astonished even his veteran clone troopers. His lightsaber, a blue blur, didn't just parry blaster fire. It carved through the droids with a devastating efficiency. He didn't just disarm them, he crushed them, tearing through their metallic frames with a ferocity that bordered on sadistic. One droid, its optical sensors still glowing, was literally ripped apart by an invisible force, its components scattering like shattered glass. His eyes, for a chilling instant, flashed a molten, malevolent yellow before he reined it back, catching his breath. He reached Lyra, pulling her close, his grip almost painful in its intensity. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" His voice was a low growl, laced with desperation and a raw fear he couldn't hide. She could feel the tremor in his hands, the residual tremor of the dark power that had just erupted. Later, in the relative quiet of their shuttle, the moment still replayed in his mind, justifying the horrifying display. He held Lyra tightly, her smaller frame against his. "You see?" he whispered, his voice thick with a mix of terror and conviction. "The galaxy is a dangerous place. It's always trying to take what we cherish, only with absolute power. Lyra, can I keep you safe?" Only then. His words were a dark echo of Palpatine's insidious promises, solidifying his belief that such unchecked power was not a corruption, but a necessity born of love. Obi-Wan Kenobi watched his former apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, with a heartbreak that deepened with each passing day. The brilliant, passionate boy he had trained, the hero of the Republic, was slowly being eclipsed by a shadow of his own making. He saw the subtle shifts, the way Anakin's humor had grown sharper, his patience shorter, his eyes holding a haunted, almost manic intensity that was deeply unsettling. One evening, after a particularly grueling mission where Anakin's recklessness had nearly compromised their objective, Obi-Wan sought him out in a quiet hangar bay. The hum of starship engines was a dull backdrop to the conversation he knew had to happen. "Anakin," Obi-Wan began, his voice soft, laden with a profound sadness. "Your attachments, they are consuming you. I feel it in the Force, a growing storm around you. The balance within you, my old friend, it is severely out of alignment." Anakin, who had been meticulously cleaning his lightsaber, paused. He looked up, and the coldness in his gaze was a physical blow to Obi-Wan's heart. There was no warmth, no flicker of the brother he once knew, only a chilling, defensive stare. "The code forbids attachment, Master," Anakin retorted, his voice low and dangerously even. "But it offers no solution for loss. It offers no comfort for the agony of watching those you care about perish. Tell me, Master, what does the code say about preventing death itself?" He gripped his lightsaber hilt tightly, his knuckles white. Obi-Wan sighed, his shoulders slumping. "The code teaches acceptance, Anakin. It teaches us to release our fears, to trust in the Force's will." "Acceptance?" Anakin scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping him. "You speak of acceptance while the people I care about are threatened every day? I will not lose them, any of them. Not Padme, not Lyra, not Alara. If the code cannot protect them, then the code is flawed." Obi-Wan saw the hardening of resolve, the terrifying conviction in Anakin's eyes. It was a familiar pattern, a tragic echo of his mother's death. But now, it was magnified, extended to 3 souls, and feeding a darkness that Obi-Wan felt powerless to stop. The gulf between them had never felt wider, and Obi-Wan knew, with a sinking feeling, that Anakin was slipping away, pulled deeper into a void of his own making. Padme Amidala had watched, with a growing sense of dread, as the man she loved, Anakin Skywalker, began to unravel. His possessiveness, once dismissed as a charming intensity, had become suffocating. The light in his eyes, once so clear and bright, was increasingly clouded by suspicion and fear. She knew of his nightmares, of course, but the way they now consumed him, twisting his compassion into control, was terrifying. One evening, after Anakin had dismissed Alara with an unwarranted sharpness over a trivial political discussion, Padme knew she could no longer remain silent. She approached him in their private quarters, her heart aching with a desperate plea. "Anakin," she began softly, her voice trembling slightly, "what is happening to you? This fear, it's changing you. We love you, all of us, Lyra and Alara and I. But this isn't love. This is something else. You're losing yourself." Her words, born of profound concern and in desperate hope to pull him back, hung heavy in the air. His reaction was immediate and chilling. His face, usually so open to her, became a mask of pain and anger. His jaw tightened, and his eyes, usually filled with adoration, flashed with a dangerous resentment. Her plea, meant to be an embrace, landed like an accusation in his increasingly darkened mind. He saw it not as love, but as doubt, as a crack in the carefully constructed unity he so desperately clung to. "You don't understand, Padme," he snarled, his voice distorted by a mix of genuine pain and rising fury. He gestured wildly, encompassingly. "I am doing this for you, for all of you, to keep you safe, to keep you here, the Jedi, the galaxy. They want to take you away. They want to tear us apart." He lunged forward, not to harm her, but to grip her shoulders, his fingers digging in. "Don't you see? I need more power. I have to protect you from everything." The raw desperation in his voice, juxtaposed with the barely contained rage, broke Padme's heart. She saw the twisted logic, the love that had curdled into a terrifying need for control. Her attempts to reach him, to show him the destructive path he was on, had only pushed him further away, solidifying his belief that she, too, doubted his methods, his ultimate dark purpose. The Jedi Council's decision to confront Anakin Skywalker was the final, devastating push Chancellor Palpatine needed. The Council, having exhaustively debated his deteriorating state, his increasingly flagrant disregard for the code, and the palpable shift in his Force presence, resolved to intervene. They planned to remove him from the Order, perhaps even contain him for the safety of the galaxy, believing he was too far gone. Word of their intent, likely fed by Palpatine himself, reached Anakin, twisting in his mind into the ultimate betrayal. He stood before Palpatine, trembling with a mixture of rage, terror, and a desperate hope. "The Jedi are going to take them from me, aren't they?" he rasped, his voice raw. "They'll see Lyra and Alara as distractions, Padme as a forbidden attachment, They'll try to correct me, to save me from my love." Palpatine, seizing the moment, dropped his benign facade. The lines on his face deepened, his eyes glinting with pure, unadulterated malevolence. "Indeed, my boy," he purred his voice, now a sibilant hiss that sent a shiver down Anakin's spine. "They are weak, and they fear your power. They fear what you can achieve, but I can offer you the knowledge to defeat death itself. The power to keep those you cherish safe. Forever." He spoke of Darth Plagueis the Wise, of midichlorian manipulation, of eternal life. The promise was intoxicating, a direct answer to his deepest, most primal fear. Anakin's mind raced. He saw the Jedi as the ultimate threat, standing between him and the power he needed to secure his loved ones' lives. Their very existence, their dogma, now felt like a cage, threatening to tear apart the fragile, forbidden world he had built. The choice, agonizing in its internal conflict, became terrifyingly inevitable. The fear of losing Padme, of seeing Lyra's gentle spirit crushed, of Alera's sharp mind dulled by despair, overwhelmed all reason, all his years of Jedi training. He convinced himself that the Jedi were the true tyrants, their rigid rules a greater danger than the power Palpatine offered. The path to darkness, once a distant shadow, was now a swift, irreversible plunge. With a chilling resolve, Anakin Skywalker bowed, pledging his allegiance, extinguishing the last flicker of his former self, embracing the monstrous destiny laid out before him. The night of Order 66, the air on Coruscant grew thick with the stench of smoke and death. The vibrant hum of the cityscape was replaced by the guttural roars of clone gunships and the agonizing screams of Jedi. The Jedi Temple, a beacon of peace for millennia, burned like a funeral pyre, a grotesque monument to Anakin Skywalker's distorted love. Lyra, the gentle Twi'lek artist, and Alara, the astute political aide, were confined within the heavily guarded, opulent apartment that had once been their sanctuary. From the high windows, they watched the distant flames consuming the temple, their hearts sinking with a terrible dread. They had heard the news. Anakin, the Chosen One, had turned. He was hunting the Jedi, leading the charge against everything he once stood for. When he finally returned, he was no longer the Anakin they knew. His eyes, though still blue, held an icy, terrifying intensity. His presence in the Force, once a vibrant, shifting current, was now a suffocating, crushing weight. He moved with a chilling efficiency, a palpable sense of dark power emanating from him. There were no explanations, no apologies, only pronouncements. "The Jedi are gone," he stated, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. "And with them, the threat to your safety." Lyra shrank back, her leku drooping, her fear a palpable tremor in the air. Alara, ever the pragmatist, tried to reason, to understand. "Anakin, what have you done? This isn't protection. This is madness!" He merely regarded her with an unfeeling gaze. "It is necessary. From now on, you are safe. Forever." They were not wives, nor partners in a loving, if unconventional, relationship anymore. They were possessions. The apartment, once a home, became a gilded cage. Lyra found her artistic expression stifled, her freedom to move curtailed, her very spirit dimming under his constant, watchful eye. Alara's political mind, once sharp and engaged, found no outlet, reduced to a captive audience for his grandiose plans. They were bound by his possessive power, living witnesses to the monster he had become, their every breath a testament to his descent. Meanwhile, Padme Amidala, her heart shattered by the Force's chilling revelation of his complete turn, journeyed to Mustafar. She confronted him amidst the lava flows, desperate to reclaim the man she loved. Her heart broke not just for herself and their unborn child, but for the twisted parody of love he had become. In his final rage-fueled act, he attacked her, believing she had betrayed him, his obsession with control consuming the last vestiges of his former self. His actions on Mustafar sealed their fates, binding them all irrevocably to the rising Darth Vader. As Darth Vader rose, charred and reborn, from the fiery shores of Mustafar, the last embers of Anakin Skywalker's noble intentions flickered and died. His quest for power had begun as a desperate, misguided attempt to protect those he loved, but it had grotesquely twisted into something far more sinister, an insatiable need for absolute control and domination. The boundless love he once felt for Padme Amidala, Lyra, and Alara had curdled into a suffocating obsession, a possessiveness that recognized no boundaries, no agency but his own. His obsession with immortality, initially fueled by the horrific premonitions of Padme's death, now expanded to encompass all three women. Even with Padme gone, a casualty of his own rage, the lingering specter of her loss, coupled with the living presences of Lyra and Alara, drove him. He sought not just to conquer death for the memory of his fallen love, but to literally bind the other two women to him, eternally, as a perverse trophy of his dark power. Their continued survival, living in the opulent prison he provided, served as a constant, horrifying testament to his ultimate descent, to the power he had amassed through betrayal and destruction. Lyra and Alara existed in a gilded cage, cared for materially, but utterly stripped of freedom. Every comfort was a reminder of their captivity, every interaction with Vader a chilling reinforcement of his ownership. Their fear was a constant, almost palpable, presence in the apartment, a dark hum that resonated with Vader's own twisted satisfaction. He didn't just want to protect them, he wanted to possess them, to exert an unyielding will over their very lives, ensuring they could never be taken from him again. The galaxy trembled under the heel of the Galactic Empire, ruled by a Sith Lord whose power was not merely born of hatred, but uniquely forged in the crucible of this absolute, suffocating love. Anakin's desperate plea to save those he cherished had spiraled into the ultimate irony. He had enslaved them, physically and spiritually, to the monstrous entity he had become. Their lives, a living monument to his profound failure, were now irrevocably bound to the dark tyranny he unleashed upon the stars.